Hello and welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Tal, and with me here today, oLIVia. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm oLIVia. I do YouTube videos primarily on movies, like animated movies, and I suppose I'm a Disney adult. I'm currently sitting next to 7 of my Disney ears. I have an entire shrine dedicated to Hunchback of Notre Dame. I have an entire board of trading pins, and I have a cat named Esmeralda.
Disgusting. How dare you come on this podcast?
She's currently outside my room, so I apologize in advance if she interrupts and I have to let her in.
Yeah, well, special guest Esmeralda. We've had Esmeralda before on the channel. Have we?
No.
Was she around when I was streaming on my birthday?
Well, she was on Gartic phone, but she wasn't like in person.
Oh, she wasn't there in person, right?
Yeah, she was in the closet the entire time.
She was in the closet. Oh, kitty, you cat, you. Wow. Well, speaking of Esmeralda, she came out good for her. Yeah. Oh, speaking of Esmeralda, that's a character in the Disney movie Hunchback of Notre Dame. Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's a Disney movie. You know what's under Disney's gigantic umbrella? That's Pixar. You know who directed a Pixar movie once or twice or thrice? Brad Bird. Hey, Brad Bird directed today's first movie, The Iron Giant. I brought it back home.
Solid transition.
Yeah, thank you. Well, so I asked you here today, oLIVia, and you so lovingly chose two films that I just so happen to own. And the first one we're talking about is The Iron Giant. So I'll introduce this because I'll let you introduce our next movie. We'll get to that. So yeah, The Iron Giant, a Brad Bird film, Brad Bird's first film from 1999. About an iron giant coming down to Earth and hijinks ensue. oLIVia, what'd you think of The Iron Giant?
I freaking adore this movie. I think I really can't choose between whether or not Ratatouille or The Iron Giant is my favorite Brad Bird movie. They're both like S tier for me.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I am more hardcore Incredibles boy when it comes to my favorite of Brad Bird's films, just because
I haven't seen that one in years.
Oh, you haven't seen it in years? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like The Incredibles is a better balance of like being a genuinely great story and can be like beloved by everybody. Yeah, I feel like Iron Giant and Ratatouille are also those because I loved Ratatouille and Iron Giant as a kid, but I feel like Incredibles I loved the most as a kid, and then into adult years I still love it just as much. Whereas I feel like Iron Giant and Ratatouille I learned to appreciate in different ways when I became an adult. Whereas The Incredibles has been on a higher level like this whole time. But that's a discussion for another day. The Iron Giant itself, it's definitely very good for a first film for Brad Bird. I mean, a first film, like, for crying out loud, like it's actually really good. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's his only 2D animated film, which is kind of a shame. Like, I would have loved to have seen another movie with this kind of style. I mean, I'm saying that, and I'm just realizing there was another movie with that style. It's called Eight Crazy Nights. Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but like, still.
Yeah, I mean, if you're familiar with the Nostalgia Critic review, he pretty much nails. Yeah, it's not a very good movie. Sorry, Byveed, if you're listening, it's not a good movie. I will not fall for the Eight Crazy Nights propaganda. It's not good. But you know what is good? The Iron Giant. So what is something that really gravitates you towards this movie? Like, why would you consider it like one of his best? Brad Bird's, that is.
I think it really might be the comedy. And I think this honestly might have like some of, if not the best facial expressions I've ever seen in an animated movie. I think, there's like, there's just so many that come into mind. Like, that scene when Annie and Kent, they're like outside Hogarth's in the outside Hogarth in the bathroom, and then Annie opens the door and Kent puts his face in, but then she smashes it on his head. There's like a single in between frame where his face still squished, and I'm obsessed with it.
It's a very good image. No, I know exactly. I love seeing it in screenshots, and on this most recent rewatch, I was like looking out for it, and I could see it for like that split second. It's like the scene of Gaston falling in Beauty and the Beast, where you can like see the skulls in his eyes. Like I've paused that moment so many times. I know I can like catch it just like that. It's really funny.
It's like the Disney World like level of hysteria.
And then the Disney World. So many good smear frames in animation. Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's some really good facial animation. Not even just meme facial animation, or like I'm also thinking of like the meme of like Dean with like the coffee mug, and like it's like edited where like his face is also on the coffee mug. Like that's a good one. But even like legitimate great facial animation, I would say. I think Hogarth is like a very expressive kid. Like he has like a wide array of emotions, and he like they're all really expressive and they look really cool. Like you can tell when he's like frustrated, you can tell when he's like super happy. Like it's a nice diverse array of emotions, and I think that, I mean, you'd think that's something that you'd need to get down, but like that can't be easy, you know, because you're like coming up with all these different facial structures for this character, you know. Well, I mean, if we're talking about Mansley, I want to talk about Mansley. He's one of my favorite villains, just because he's so funny. I feel like, you know, like everything. Like I was looking forward to seeing him because like he has so many like great scenes in this movie. He has so many great lines.
He is so hysterical. I mean,
he's so hysterical. There's like, I mean, the one that I always remember is the one where like, you know, he launches the missiles and the general's just like,
"Where's the giant, Mansley?
Where's the giant, Mansley?" And then he's like, "We're going to die, Mansley, for our country." Screw our country. I want to live.
Okay, I do kind of have a funny story about where's the giant Mansley thing. So
no, please, Dave, please.
Last semester there was I forgot which class it was in, but there was a professor doing roll, and there was a girl with the last name Manley, and I was so tempted to just blurt, "Where's the giant, Mansley?" But because it was the first day, I didn't want to be seen as like the weird girl, so I just kept my mouth shut.
Oh, smart move. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I can relate to that. The amount of times like someone will just like, you know what, say their name or like say something out in public, and I just want to quote something related, like tangentially related to it, or not even like, because Mansley, it's not the same name, but like your brain clicks and you're just like, Iron Giant reference. Like, yeah, it's yeah, no, I completely get that. But like Mansley also has some really good there's that one scene at the beginning when like he like doesn't believe that there's an Iron Giant. He's like walking back to his car and he's like, I gotta get this quote right, where he's just like, probably the most exciting thing to happen in this town is Homecoming Queen. Oh my god! Like it's such a good reaction because like it's so like funny, but also like it like the actor Christopher McDonald like delivers it in a way that it's so believable. Like I don't know, he just has that voice to him because like, you know, he plays like the douchebag in every movie he's in or that I've ever seen him in, because he was in Flubber. He was the douchebag in Flubber, which Flubber, terrible movie by the way.
At least it's got Robin Williams in it.
It does, but oh my god, that's a movie we watched for wheel night one time, but we were miserable. We were so miserable. That was the night we watched what was it, Gingerweed Man, and then we moved on to Flubber. And we were more annoyed with Flubber than we were with Gingerweed Man. Oh god, it was terrible movie. But anyway, Iron Giant, sorry.
I think my favorite line from Kent Mansley's opening scene is, "No, Marv, big things happen in big places."
Yeah, big places. Oh god, yeah, no, that's he's so funny. He's such a good character because he's like such a piece of shit, but like you're like he's like a piece of shit in the same way that like Gaston is, where like yes, he's a gigantic asshole, but you love seeing him be a gigantic asshole. Like you just can't help but like love to hate him, you know?
And I love the scene with the phone when he hangs up and he tries to put it back on the thing and it doesn't. Like they didn't have to add it, but they did, and it's so good.
Yeah. Or the scene while he's on the phone and like the general's laughing and he looks at like the cow oven mitt and it looks like it's mocking him and he just like turns it around. It's like it's so random, but like it adds to his character. Like he's just so self-conscious that a fucking oven mitt is like triggering him. It's yeah, no, it's genius. And it's little details like that I love that Brad Bird kept in.
Wait, I forgot. Have you watched Atlantis: The Lost Empire?
I have, yes. So Atlantis, that was the Disney movie in 2001. That's the one with Michael J. Fox and Cree Summer. Yeah, Atlantis. Yeah.
Yeah, so the voice of the general in the Iron Giant is the same voice as I think his name is Whitmore in Atlantis. He's the one like in the big mansion.
Yeah, John Mahoney. He's Frasier's dad in Frasier. He has a really good voice.
He
like
does.
He suits like that general voice really well. Like he's really good in that. Well, that's the thing is like there's a lot of great voice actors in this. So obviously we said John Mahoney, Christopher McDonald, but like even the main characters. So like Jennifer Aniston is Annie, the mom, which works really well. Like she was like in Friends at the time, but like here she is like, you know, voicing this mother character and she does a really good job. I really like Harry Connick Jr. as Dean too. Like as like this beatnik. He has some speaking of line delivery, there's that scene where like the Iron Giant jumps into the lake and like Dean goes like 2 miles out from like the water like pushing him through into like the road and like that pig farmer drives by. He's like, "Hey buddy," and
you're
Dean's
right
like,
in the middle of the road.
Yeah. This is the way he says yeah.
All right.
It's so funny because there's so much character to that. Like it's not much, but it's enough, you know?
I grew up with Harry Connick Jr. with the Dolphin Tale movies, both of them. But now I think I first watched Iron Giant when I was, I guess, like a mid-teenager. So like since then I've associated Harry Connick Jr. with Dean.
I grew up with Harry Connick Jr. as being the shitty boyfriend on Will and Grace, but that's just me. We haven't talked about the titular character, the Iron Giant himself yet. Voiced by Vin Diesel of all actors. But he works. Like he genuinely, because he has that like low graspy voice, and obviously they do some like editing and tweaking on his voice to make it sound a little more like metallic and giant. But like even still, he has that low graspy voice that it still works. Like it sounds great, and obviously he's not doing a whole lot. He's literally doing the whole Groot thing where he's only saying like a couple of lines, really. But it works, you know, because that's the character. Like a lot of the character comes from the animation, which the animation on him is really good. I think it is mostly CGI.
Yeah, he's all CG, and then it's cell shaded 2D.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of really good facial expressions with him, even though like it's a very simple facial structure because it's literally just like the eyes and then you have like the mouth, but like you could do so much with that. And they do like there's like a certain scene where like I can't remember if he like eats something or if it's when he like puts the screw back into his jaw.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Hogarth and like he smiles like like that's a scene I always think of with like, you know, him giving like a different facial expression. That's a really good example of that.
And I think my favorite is right after the general says, "Where's the giant, Mansley?" Mansley turns around and the giant is like just glaring at him.
Yeah.
That one always makes me burst out laughing.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one too. It's a really good and simple character, I would say. Like, you know, and that's the thing with this movie is like you'd think it would be a little too overcomplicated. Because like where exactly does this giant robot come from? Like, it comes from space, but like, and I want to bring this up. So I have the signature edition on Blu-ray.
Ooh.
So it comes with the theatrical cut, but it also has the signature edition. And actually looking at the back here, so the signature edition is rated PG for fantasy, action, violence, language, some thematic material, and smoking. And the theatrical version is PG for fantasy, action, and mild language. I didn't watch the theatrical cut this most recent time. I probably should have, so that I could like tell the difference between the two, but I just didn't. I wanted to go with the cut that wasn't like altered. I wanted to go with the actual cut of the movie.
Yeah.
Do
Wait,
you know what version you saw?
I watched the theatrical version on Max because I don't have it on physical, but I did check out the signature edition at the library last year. Just check out the 2 scenes.
Yeah, so yeah, I did notice this time around. So I think what they're referring to is like the scene when like the titular giant is like having that nightmare, and like you can clearly see like different iron giants, and they're like attacking planets, and like, you know, it's like a lot of like space stuff, you know.
Yeah, and it's projected on the TV screen inside Dean's house, so he's able to see it.
Yeah, because I don't remember, because I feel like I saw the theatrical version a lot more as a kid, because I don't really remember that scene as much as like other scenes.
Yeah, I wasn't in the theatrical cut.
Yeah, okay,
because of budgetary reasons.
Yeah, I can get that. But also, I feel like it's such a weird scene that, I mean, I get why they have to include it, so then you can get like some idea where he came from. Which, I mean, it makes sense, you know, because they don't really delve too much into it, where, you know, you just get him like dreaming about this kind of stuff, you know. You just get him like walking around destroying these planets, and then you don't really give it. I don't think they necessarily show like some reason why he left. You just assume, oh, he left because he didn't want to be violent anymore. Like, I'm assuming that's what they were going for.
Yeah, and I think it also does a good reason, or like it kind of justifies why Dean did a complete 180 when the giant was shooting Hogarth later. He realized he was acting defensively toward the gun.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little weird of a scene, because I mean, I get it, like you have to have a scene where like, you know, Dean has to be a little protective of Hogarth and like causing the giant to like run away. But then it's just kind of weird, because then immediately after they've left after the giant and Hogarth have left, like that's when Dean like finds the gun. He's like, oh, it was in defense. Like,
yeah, it took like 5 seconds.
Yeah, it was just like 5 seconds. He's just like, oh, I believe the giant is good again. It's like, oh, okay, that was weird. But like little details, I can forgive that, because again, it is a very simple movie, and like it is only 90 minutes. So like,
tight script.
I think what they include is fine. Like, I think that moment's a little weird, but at the same time, I'm not like, I don't think it like straight up ruins the movie, you know. Like, I think it's still effective in what it's trying to do.
And then there's another scene in the signature edition where I don't think it's as significant as the dream scene, but it's Annie and Dean in the diner, and they're just talking, and it's the scene before he goes out to take the truck. He was like towing it. That was the one that got like the big bite taken out of it.
Okay, interesting. So they just wanted like another scene of Annie and Dean together, I guess.
Yeah, I think it kind of, I guess, fleshed out their relationship, because they didn't talk for like an hour in between the first opening scene and like when they were in Dean's junkyard.
And then like at the end, that you're supposed to believe that like they ended up together, I guess. Which,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not the worst forced hetero romance in a movie, I would say.
I'll take it.
Yeah, and plus the fact, I don't think it's like, it's not like, you know, the movie like really pays attention to it. Like, they're just together at the end. You're just like, oh, okay,
yeah,
whatever.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, it does say like a year has passed. So you're like, maybe something happened in between. Who cares? Like, the movie's ending right now. Like, I don't really care. Yeah. Just trying to think. I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the movie before we get into this Blu-ray?
I did write some notes.
Oh,
I
please.
like that this movie predicted squirrels in my pants from Phineas and Ferb.
I was saying that exactly while I was watching it. I'm just like, oh god, SIMP squirrels in my pants. When you're raised on Phineas and Ferb, how could you not make the connection?
Exactly. And then I think it's also cool that two of Walt Disney's 9 old men make a cameo in this movie because they were mentors for Brad Bird. I think that was so cool. Like they were mentors before he even joined Pixar.
Yeah, because it's the train conductor and the train guy. Like it's the scene when like Mansley's like interviewing like the train guys like after the train got derailed from the giant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's them. Yeah, you know what? It's funny because they also show up in The Incredibles.
Yeah, I know that much. I forgot. Or yeah, I know that much of that scene. I haven't seen it in years, but I know that.
It's funny because like I know now, like as an adult, that's who those guys are. Like they're one of the original Disney 9 old men. But like as a kid, I did not know their significance in the at the point in The Incredibles, because like that's the scene where they're just like, oh, that's old school. Like the superheroes are getting back together. It's like at first, you're gonna laugh. I thought that was supposed to be the principal and his teacher Bernie, but like much older. And I'm like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Like it's only been a couple of months since their last scene. Like what happened? It was so confusing to me as a kid. But then I got older. I'm like, oh, those are two completely different characters.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally just a cameo from like, the 9 old men that Brad Bird, again, was like, there was like his mentors. It's like, okay. I filled in the blanks in my mind in the weirdest way possible as a kid, but yeah, no, that is cool that they show up in this movie too.
Mm-hmm. And I also really like the movie's editing. Like the one part that sticks out to me is the scene transition where Kent and Hogarth are both spinning around. Like Kent is talking to the like government guys and he spins around, but then it cuts to Hogarth finishing that spin while he's talking to the giant, and I love that.
Yeah, no, that's a really cool effect of like showing like the two of them. Like they obviously have very different goals, but like essentially they're like thinking about it in a similar way. Yeah, no, I agree.
Mm-hmm. I also wrote Dean 3 separate times in my notes. I wonder if that means anything.
Yeah, he's a very fun character. I love Dean. This is just like Beatnik, who's just like, yeah, sure, I'll take care of your robot in my junkyard.
He's also one of my biggest animated crushes. What?
What? What'd you say? Yeah, no,
nothing.
That was a close one. Phew. I do like his line at the beginning where he's just like, if nobody will stand up for the kooks, who else will?
Mm-hmm.
Which, ties into him defending the giant robot, which is kooky, but it works, I think,
Oh, and then back to the facial expression thing. When Annie is asking if her son is bothering him, and he says yes, no, and he like slams his fist on the table because the squirrel's up in his pants. Now I love those facial expressions.
Yeah, no, that's the thing with this movie. There's so many good facial expressions. There's so much good animation. This is one of those, like, obviously it's one of those early examples of like 2D and 3D being kind of like mixed together, because you have like the characters as 2D, being 2D animated, and then you have like the robot itself being 3D animated.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's one of those early examples where like the mixture of the animations really, really works. Because I always think of like something like Sinbad, where like the DreamWorks Sinbad, where like it's so obvious the difference between the 2D and 3D that like it looks really distracting. But like I feel like this movie is like a better example of that, where like you're marrying the two, whereas like it looks a lot better, a lot more natural.
It's weird how off it looks in Sinbad, because like in the earlier 2D DreamWorks movies, like Prince of Egypt, and then like it's all right in Road to El Dorado, but like it looks better even though they're earlier movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, what gives?
I mean, yeah, what gives? I guess at that point, like DreamWorks was just like, well, we already made Shrek. Like, who cares anymore? Like, we're just gonna move on to 3D animation, which
Yeah.
I get it. Like from a business standpoint, yes, you want to go with the more popular type of animation, but at the same time, you know, people are gonna long for that years down the line. Which, I mean, again, we're in a time where like the most popular animated films are stuff like Spider-Verse and Puss in Boots, where like yes, they're 3D animated, but they're doing so in a way that like harkens back to that style, that old timey style of 2D animation. So like
Yeah.
again, when it's a marrying of the two, like people love that, or you know, it looks better, I should say. Whether or not people love it, I mean, it's not always guaranteed,
Yeah.
but it, you know, it just looks better. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I said Kent needs to be told that he is Kent enough. That's all he needed.
I was making Knuff jokes as well when watching it. I mean, we're in a post Barbie world now. It's impossible not to, even though it's Kent with a T, but it works. It works. He's Kentuff.
You want to get into your Blu-ray now?
Yeah, might as well. I mean, I pretty much have said pretty much everything I want to say about this movie. It's a very fantastic movie. I really do think I'm more of a fan of Ratatouille and The Incredibles, especially The Incredibles, when it comes to Brad Bird films. But I don't think this is like bad or anything. I did lower my score a bit on Letterboxd. But like I still think it's really good. Like it's a really good movie. It's obviously paying homage to like a lot of like the cheesy sci-fi movies of the 50s. But I feel like this one is much better written than those cheesy sci-fi movies of the 50s, which isn't really a hard thing to do considering the fucking market, but you know, it's still worth the praise, you know.
Oh wait, I forgot. Yeah. Did you make a landslide?
So yeah, let's talk about that. You really wanted to make a landslide shake.
Yes.
So I went to Five Guys and got a burger and fries and a milkshake because I don't know, when I think of 1950s, I think of like, you know, diner, like the big beefy burgers and fries and the milkshakes. And I feel like Five Guys does that really well. Do you have Five Guys out there in LA, California?
Yeah, I do. I have one. Yeah, I have like a couple near me. I've only gone, I think, once or twice though.
Okay, we're just making sure because you know it's just California is like on the other side of Mars to me. So I don't know. You guys are weird out there. Just kidding. Anyway, so I just got like an Oreo milkshake. I probably could have gotten a vanilla and gotten Hershey bars, but I completely forgot. But yeah, you were really apt to wanting to make a landslide. And I was really worried because I'm like, you do know what the landslide is in the movie, right?
I used a Hershey's bar. Relax.
Right. I know. Yeah. So in the movie, in order for Hogarth to get the slip on Mansley, he sprinkles chocolate on his milkshake, but it's actually not chocolate, it's laxative.
It's because for years whenever I watch the movie, I watch that scene and I'm like, oh, I really want to make that milkshake, but I keep forgetting to do it until I watch the movie the next time. And like this time finally I remembered the milkshake existed, so I like planned it out ahead of time. I got a Hershey's bar and then went over to Paul's place, and I also got a burger, some curly fries, and a chocolate milkshake, and then I just crumpled the Hershey's bar on top.
Well, yeah, so I didn't get the Hershey's, but I still got a milkshake. I got the landslide. It's new.
Very new.
But anyway, so the Iron Giant Signature Edition. I have it on Blu-ray. It looked great on Blu-ray. It was really cool. Yeah, and it's really cool that this comes with both versions. I really greatly appreciate that. As somebody who's very like anal about this kind of stuff, like I would like options when it comes to watching movies. Like even if a version is obviously less than stellar like than another version I appreciate, like I don't know, I like having the choice of having, any version I can watch at any given moment,
Yeah, like different cuts of the movie.
Exactly. Star Wars. Like it's just frustrating, like how like certain versions of movies will just not be available because like studios or Blu-ray companies will just be like, who cares? It's like, I cares a lot, actually.
Mhm.
So no, but I'm glad that, at least with this movie, I have the option to, maybe someday I want to watch the theatrical version. Maybe someday I want to watch the signature edition version. So it's just nice having the choice. Unfortunately, this is a Blu-ray with the recycling logo edged out in the case. I have mentioned numerous times on numerous occasions on this podcast, I hate when Blu-ray cases do that. But if the movie's good enough, I'm willing to keep it. And yeah, I think I'm willing to keep this Blu-ray of the Iron Giant. This is actually a version that up until we planned this, I think was still in its wrapping.
Oh, wow.
From when I bought it at Bull Moose, I believe.
Mhm.
So this was the christening of breaking the wine bottle on the ship, so to speak, when watching this time.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and again, it looked great. I think I'm willing to keep this for now. Maybe later down the line, I could always upgrade it to 4K. Does a 4K of this like even exist?
I don't know. I was just about to ask you.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Not that I've seen. I don't think so.
I feel like I just assume a lot of movies have a 4K version because that's that's a very popular way of watching movies now. But then I forget. Oh, right, like some movies just don't have that luxury.
Titanic.
Yeah, like Titanic. They'll put Showgirls on 4K. They won't put Titanic on 4K. Fuck's sake.
Ugh.
When are they gonna put Faust on 4K? I mean, come on.
Never. Better be never.
Anyway, even if I do eventually upgrade this, for now I'm fine with keeping this. I'm just saying Iron Giant in general does have a place in the collection. Whether it's this Blu-ray, whether it's something different down the line, I'm keeping it for sure. So you said you don't have it on Blu-ray, correct?
No, I don't. And yeah, I checked out. I guess I was a little ahead of the curve, but yeah, I did borrow the signature collection or signature edition on DVD last year at the library because I've been wanting to check it out for years, and I finally got the chance. And yeah, I liked it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good movie. Do you have much of any sort of collection in physical media? It's a weird way of asking it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I have like an entire shelf of it, and I guess the way I come, my perspective on physical media is different from you and like William, because a couple weeks ago, William was mentioning how he hasn't seen Ringo before, but he has it on Blu-ray, and I think he said he bought it in the original packaging. And I was like just dramatically gasping at the fact that he owns it, even though he's never watched it. And he's like, oLIVia, why are you gasping? And it's because for me, if I want to buy like a Steelbook or a Blu-ray or whatever, it has to be like an all-timer movie for me. Because if there's a movie I'm interested in seeing that I haven't seen yet, I'll just add it to my watch list. But if I love it enough, then I'll buy it on physical.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm somewhere in between you guys. We're like, obviously I'm not like William, where like I want every movie ever in my collection. I mean, that's why I started this podcast, so that I can downsize. But I feel like, there's some things I definitely want. I mean, that's the thing, is like I don't own, I feel like I have like people in my server always posting like links to like when something is on 4K, and they're just like, oh, time to upgrade. It's just like, well, like why? Like, sometimes the joy in owning something is the packaging it comes in. Like, I don't think I would ever want to own everything in my collection thus far on a 4K disc. Like, the interesting part of my collection is that I have a wide array of different versions of different things. Like, I have Time Runner on VHS because there's not a Blu-ray or DVD of it in existence. I own the Star Wars Holiday Special on DVD because
Ugh.
that's extraordinarily rare. So it's just, no, I can definitely understand though. Like nobody wants like a giant collection unless it's me or William. Like we're literally the only two people in the world that like having this amount of movies in our collection.
So I may be
Um,
picky about what I want to own on physical for
yeah,
movies, but I'm like the
right.
exact opposite for books. Like if I see a book that I'm interested in buying or if I'm interested in reading it, I'm gonna buy it.
Right, exactly.
Even though it's a bigger
Yeah.
time investment than movies. I don't know, that's just how my brain works.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get it. I get it. We have weird niches that we want to fulfill.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, so I take it we're done with Iron Giant, you'd say?
I suppose.
Okay, well, let's talk about a different visionary tour de force.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I was just quoting the front of this Blu-ray of The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. Kaguya.
Kaguya.
Kaguya. No, I was just being an asshole. Anyway, we watched, this is the very first Studio Ghibli movie being talked about on the podcast.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, congrats. You are the first one to recommend a Ghibli movie on the podcast. So,
Yay!
oLIVia, Tale of Princess Kaguya. Let's talk about it.
Okay, am I introducing it?
Go for it, kid.
Okay, so yeah, it's a Studio Ghibli movie directed by Isao Takahata, the same director as Grave of the Fireflies and Only Yesterday. It was released in 2013, and it was originally supposed to be a double bill with The Wind Rises, similar to My Neighbor Totoro and Grave of the Fireflies, but because Isao Takahata he's kind of a perfectionist, so it was delayed. But yeah.
Okay, interesting. I actually didn't know it was supposed to come out as like a double bill
Mhm.
with Wind Rises. I mean, yeah, makes sense. The fact that he's a perfectionist for sure.
Absolutely.
So yeah, what'd you think? What do you think of the movie?
It's okay, yeah, it's in my top 4 favorite on Letterboxd, so yeah, I'm, like, kind of obsessed with it. So
Yeah, clearly.
I actually saw it, back when it was released in theaters and, it took, like, a year to come to the US, so I saw it in theaters back in 2014.
Okay.
And, I know I brought this up before, but you know the theater where I saw, The Lighthouse?
I forget the name of it, but I know you've seen The Lighthouse in theaters.
Yeah, it's the Frida Cinema in Santa Ana, California, just free promo if anyone's around there and wanna check it out. But yeah, I saw it back in 2014. My aunt used to volunteer there, and because it's, like, nonprofit, and her full-time job was a teacher at a nearby school, so there was just a couple of nights where she brought her entire class to see 2 movies, and she asked me if I wanted to go see them. The first one was Song of the Sea, and I freaking love that one. That's one I still adore to this day. And then the second one was, Kaguya, and that one I think I was 12 years old when I saw both of them, and I preferred Song of the Sea at the time, and then I thought Kaguya was alright, and then I think way down the line, I think, like, 6 or so years later, I watched it again on HBO Max, and I fell in love with it.
Okay, cool. I did not see it when it first came to theaters. I didn't even know it existed when it first came to theaters. Because I did definitely know about Ghibli at that time, but like mostly from friends going on about like the usual suspects of Ghibli movies, stuff like Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, Princess Mononoke, like
Mhm.
the usual stuff.
All the Miyazaki ones.
All the Miyazaki ones, exactly. And yeah, so I did not watch this until James one day in the editor server was like, "Hey, I'm doing a Ghibli ranking, claim stuff." And so so like that was basically when I started watching Ghibli films, was because of James.
Mhm.
My very first one was Spirited Away, which ironically enough I did not vibe with the very first time I watched it.
Huh.
I eventually learned upon subsequent rewatches of loving it. But yeah, no, Kaguya was one of the earliest ones I watched because I had claimed that when like claiming segments for that video.
Mhm.
and I watched it. And because I usually like to watch even if I don't claim a segment, I like to watch all the movies that James talks about in any given ranking.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I remember watching this, and again, funny story. So it was this would have been like late July, maybe mid July of 2021. I had just seen Boss Baby 2, and then like a day or so later, I watched this, and controversial belief, but I mean, this is better than the Boss Baby 2. Let me just tell you.
No.
Yeah, I know, shocking as it is. But yeah, no. So like when I first watched this, I mean, after enduring something like that, but also just like in general, like it was just kind of a wake up call to be like, wow, this was incredible. You know, like it was such a cool experience to see a real animated movie. Like it was just really cool to see. But I'm glad we rewatched it this time, because then I was able to like be a little more level headed when watching it again. And I'm glad I was, because wow, like it's so cool, like what this movie does, you know what I'm saying? So one thing I definitely realized is the animation. It's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Because it's not normal like Ghibli style, you know, like one, it's not Miyazaki Ghibli, it's Takahata Ghibli, which is very different if you know like the different movies that they both did. Which you brought up Only Yesterday, Grave of the Fireflies, like that is very much Takahata Ghibli. Especially like Only Yesterday, like thinking of Only Yesterday in my mind, like a lot of scenes are like, I really don't want to use the word simplistic when describing the animation, but you know what I mean? Like a lot of scenes have like very like basic white backgrounds to them, you know? Less detailed. Exactly. And you really feel that here. Because it definitely has that like kind of old Japanese painting style to it, where like you get like a lot of like, Japanese watercolors, I would say. Yeah,
ukiyo-e.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just, but it works. Like, but you still have characters with amazing, to bring up facial expressions again, like really good facial expressions in this movie. Just because it has this style, it also is able to use that style to the movie's advantage, you know?
Esmeralda's crying at the door. Hang on. I told you she'd do this. Hang on.
Yeah, she's a special guest, Esmeralda.
Okay, she's inside.
Oh, that's quite all right. I know pets interrupting podcast recordings. I don't know if you could hear my dog earlier.
The dog police, you mean?
Dog police, what are you going for? Dog police, nobody knows who you are. God damn it. No, my actual dog, Camo, he sometimes will bark during recordings. Honestly, I've just learned to ignore it. And plus, I think it's funny because, like, you'll just hear this dog in the background. So, and what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, Tale of Princess Kaguya. I like the art style to this movie because it does kind of reflect the idea that this is like a fairy tale, you know? I mean, it's called The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. Like exactly. It's really reinforcing the fact that this is a very fairy tale like movie.
I think it is interesting that it was oh my gosh, you're not gonna shut up. I think it is interesting because Takahata did say like he just kind of grew tired of cell animation, which is why he started diverting away from it with Only Yesterday with that more, you know, simplistic art style, and then even My Neighbors the Yamadas. That was kind of like a test run.
Yeah, you definitely tell that in My Neighbors the Yamadas as well. Yeah, which it probably no surprise why movies like My Neighbors the Yamadas, Only Yesterday, and Kaguya are like my favorite of Takahata's. I mean, I like Grave of the Fireflies. I think I just appreciate more with his other movies, and then I really did not like Pompoko, but hey, 4 out of 5 ain't bad.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I agree with James. Over the Hedge is a better raccoon movie than Pompoko. But yeah, Kaguya. that's the thing with this movie, is that like a lot of it is very fairy tale like, where because I mean, the whole idea of like this princess being born from like bamboo, and then the parents, like this old couple are just like, well, she's our daughter now. Like it's very fairy tale like, where you're just like,
Mhm.
that doesn't make any
Fairy tale
sense. But like,
logic.
yeah, fairy tale logic, exactly. There's a lot of fairy tale logic, especially like in the later like 20 minutes, where like you have like Kaguya admitting like, oh, I was sent down here by the moon people, and you're just like, the what now? What is this? What are you talking about? Like
Yeah.
that's when you just have to like, that's when the movie kind of like gets a little weird for me, which is why I don't consider it entirely perfect. But again, I feel like that's intentional. Like it's just like, yeah, it's like this weird fairy tale logic. And again, like there's that whole like, I don't even really mind the scene where like Kaguya and what's his face?
Stemaru.
Semaru? Is that how you say that?
Stemaru.
Semaru. Yeah, so like how they're just like flying around,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, being all happy, and then like immediately it's just like, oh, it was all a dream. But it's like, oh, was it a dream? Like it's very. That's the thing with this movie. It's very dreamlike in its narrative. Like you don't exactly buy it 100% as like this grounded story. Like again, that reflects it as like this fairy tale, very much so.
The tale, like the original tale, is like over 1,000 years old, so I can kind of
Right.
understand why it has that fairy tale logic. I think it is
Sure.
like the oldest Japanese uh story. So
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know that. That's actually really fascinating,
Mhm.
actually, that it's the oldest. Yeah, okay. That's actually really cool. And yeah, that also ties into the fact that yes, it's like this very loose fairy tale that like, not everything makes a whole lot of sense, but it's done so in a way that doesn't bother me.
Mhm.
I will say. Cuz I feel like I feel like I do love dream logic in movies when it's done right. Stuff like, The Shining, The Lighthouse, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, and I really and this is something I noticed upon rewatch, and I mentioned it in my Letterboxd review. Like the idea that like we love praising the hell out of this movie. I mean,
Mhm.
us who have seen it.
Mhm.
Um, and like I feel like that's kind of ironic, considering there's like a whole like subplot in this movie devoted to a bunch of noblemen trying to woo Princess Kaguya,
Mhm.
like, and they're coming up with all these like impossible standards for her, like, oh, you're like this beautiful crested jeweled branch of this tree from like this, and like you're like these impossibly like high standards they're comparing her to,
Mhm.
and it's all just so much for her. um and I really love the idea that like she's just like, oh, if you truly believe this of me, like, go out and find these gifts, these quote unquote gifts you compare me to, and
Mhm.
bring them to me as gifts, and then I'll marry you. It's that seems very like old folktale-ish, like
Mhm.
just like, oh, go on this quest to find this like thing you've compared me to, and I shall marry you.
Mhm.
Which, so you say it's like this is like the oldest fairy this is like the oldest story in like Japanese lore, folklore. it, it's not like one to one, I would say, right? And like how it tells its story.
I do know there's some differences. Like I know the whole thing with the suitors, like that's a huge part in the folk tale, and then I know the emperor plays a bigger role. Like I
Hmm.
think in the original folk tale, he kind of does the thing where he goes over to Kaguya's palace and tries to woo her, but then she's like,
Yeah.
"No, I'm not going with you." But then they actually become friends afterwards, and then
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
probably get
wasn't that an uncomfortable scene where he just like
ugh.
he's like just like grabs her from behind, and you're just like, oh no, no, don't do that, no.
Now I think I might be
Oh
getting it
man.
mixed up with a Chinese folk tale. They're both kind of similar with like the moons and stuff, but I
Sure.
think Kaguya gives him an elixir, and
Hmm.
then when she eventually goes back up to the moon. Oh yeah, her parents die of broken hearts, by the way, in the original folktale. And then
Oh,
I think
great.
yeah. And then oh I think the emperor goes up to a mountain to burn the elixir, and that mountain ends up being Mount Fuji.
Okay, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'm only asking because like, so I assume the folklore, like the folktale of the original Princess Kaguya, like it kind of ends with her essentially the same way, like she doesn't end up marrying any of them.
Yeah.
And I like that. Like I think that's a really well, I mean that's a really good way of showing like, oh, all this flattery gets you nothing essentially, you
Mm-hmm.
know. um but the point I was trying to make is that like I relate that to like a lot of how people like just love to praise the hell out of this movie and call it like one of the greatest movies they've ever seen,
Mm-hmm.
when like, you know, that's essentially what the noblemen are doing. They're like coming up with like these high praises for this character that they've never truly met. And it's like, how many times have we really watched this movie? Like I've only seen this movie twice. I personally would not call it the greatest thing ever, but like that's just because like I'm like really starting to like appreciate more things about it, but in a way that I feel like I'm doing so where I'm not like overselling it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm more so wanting to understand it more before I can be like, oh, this is the best thing ever. Like, I mean, because that's essentially what I did when I first watched it. And again, that's because I had watched Boss Baby 2 beforehand. It's like, literally, I could have been watching anything after Boss Baby 2, and I'd probably call it the greatest thing ever. I could have watched Fungicide after watching Boss Baby 2, and I'd call Fungicide the greatest movie ever made. I already do so, but you get my point. Like, there's like, I really need to understand. I mean, this is why I always like kind of champion for rewatching movies. Like, you can't just watch a movie once and be done with it. Like, you need to watch it several times in order to truly feel like you're getting somewhere with it. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's just like something I was thinking about when watching the movie. I'm like, wow, like there's all these 5-star reviews for it, but it's like, how many times have these people truly watched it? I think you've watched it several times because I've seen your Letterboxd. So you're
at
clearly
least 10, like probably
at
dozen
least
times.
Oh boy.
And that's including when I originally saw it. So before I truly fell in love with it on HBO Max, I saw it twice. The first time was in theaters, and then I watched it again like sometime later when Elsa, like when you were allowed to rent Ghibli movies. And then there's like a huge gap of time, like I think 6 or so years where I just didn't watch it. And I think the kind of ironic thing is that I have Song of the Sea on DVD, and whenever I pop in that DVD, there were trailers for Princess Kaguya since they both came out at the same time.
Which is funny because when I watched Kaguya on this Blu-ray, there was a trailer for Song of the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. There you go. Oh yeah, wow, that's fascinating.
But I do think your perspective on how there's so many 5-star reviews and how we treat the movie Kaguya like the suitors, I think that's really insightful.
Yeah, it was just something I thought of. I'm just like, wow, like, and it just got me thinking of like, you know, how we portray or how we view art really in general, because it's just like I feel like, yes, obviously we can be hyperbolic on a lot of movies when we watch them for the first time because we're just like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. And I truly feel like a lot of the hyperbolic like 5-star reviews on any given movie on Letterboxd is mostly played up for either comedic play or for just like, you know, for hyperbolic sake. So like I don't entirely take it seriously, but I don't know, it's just something that like I was really thinking about. It's just like, wow, we're like praising the hell out of it. We're like giving it so many compliments, but like we're not really thinking about that. And I feel like that's what this movie's about. Like, you know, the movie is essentially about this character, this princess character, and like her parents are like treating her as like this, like, you know, godsend, because she was sent here from the moon people and the bamboo shoot, and also the father was hacking at a different bamboo stock one day and gold just happened to be there. It's like, yeah, like I think they are, you know, they're truly just like, this is one of the greatest things that could ever happen to us. So like the compliments and like the amount of high standards that comes with her position, you can understand why they do this, but at the same time, you also see like the pressures that come with that high standard. Like there's that scene, one of my absolute favorite scenes in the whole movie is when she's like, there's like a party for her that like lasts like what, 3 days.
The naming ceremony.
Yeah, her naming ceremony, like everybody's like celebrating, and she's like kind of hidden away in like behind all these like sheets and flowery
curtains and stuff.
Curtains and stuff, yeah. And like, you know, she can overhear people being like, oh, how pretty is this girl anyway, like, and they just like start like kind of wondering, like they start thinking of the logic of like them celebrating this princess they've never met for 3 days. It's like, how interesting is this person? And like that really gets to her so hard that like, you know, she runs away, or does she? But like the animation of her like running away into the night is like some of my favorite animation in anything ever, like which I know is high praise, which it's so gorgeous. I know it's high praise, and I'm trying to say I shouldn't be doing that, but like it's kind of hard not to, because it's just so gorgeous and it's so well done. But that's what but that's the thing about this movie is like it's showing like the pressures that come with like, you know, your status as like this amazing thing. Now, granted, this is an amazing movie, but it's I don't know, just like thinking about it, like why do we consider it amazing? I think that's that was like something I came to I had like kind of like a light bulb moment where I'm just like, why do I find this amazing, you know? Yeah, so I still think it's an amazing movie. Like it's one of those movies where like I feel it's such a unique feeling movie when I watch it. And so like no other movie that I've ever seen gives me the feelings that I feel like Princess Kaguya does. The movie does. So no matter like my issues with it, and I feel like I do still have pacing issues with it, but like those are like, you know, personal issues of mine. I still wouldn't want it to be any other way. Like I just respect it far too much for me to like change it in any way, you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. So yeah, it's, I don't know. Obviously I feel like I'm rambling a lot with this point, but I feel like it's just something that like I really thought about when watching this movie. And I'm glad that I was thinking about it. Like I'm glad when a movie can like raise awareness of like an idea that I didn't think of beforehand.
But yeah, that scene of her like just storming out of the mansion, it is such a good scene.
It's so good. So good.
I love that reaction shot of her where it's her like slow, like you can see she's slowly turning into anger when the guys overhead are like saying like maybe she's a goblin and stuff. I think that reaction shot lasts for like 20 seconds, but it feels like an eternity.
Yeah, no, it's very well done. I want to watch it again. Like and I just watched it like a couple days ago. I want to watch it again. That's how good this movie is. Which I mean, that's a testament to how good a movie can be, is like how sooner do I want to rewatch it again after having watched it already. Like I like variety when watching movies, so like I like to space things out, but like sometimes a movie's so good that you're just like, again, please, you know?
Well, we are recording this on August 15th, and you know that's the exact same day Kaguya, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, so that's a good point. So you wanted to record this on the day of the 15th, which is the day that she goes back to the moon people. Which is really funny because it's like, oh, we could probably like premiere this on the day, but no, we made the decision to record on the day. I think that's a very interesting way of putting it. I mean, hey, happy Kaguya Day. She goes back to the moon people today. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, we're recording this on the day that she goes back to the moon people. So take that, internet, for all the people that are probably going to be like, oh, did you know that you missed the anniversary of premiering this episode? It's like, yeah, I know, I'm aware of it, I'm not stupid.
But I think this is the this is like the third year in a row where I rewatched the movie on the 15th, just because I like doing that.
Nice.
I either like watching movies on their the actual movie's anniversary, or if there's like a specific significant date in the movie, I like watching it on those days.
Yeah, I try to do that, and then I forget to do that a lot. Actually, the funniest time I ever watched a movie on its anniversary was when I accidentally watched what was it? I accidentally watched Tales from Earthsea on its 15th anniversary. And I didn't know that until afterwards. Like, because I was like, I watched the movie randomly because, again, it was part of the Ghibli ranking. So I was just like, what's next on the list? Tales from Earthsea? Oh, James didn't like this one. Maybe I'll like it fine. No, so boring. And then I like looked it up later, and it was just like, yeah, today's the 15th anniversary of Tales from Earthsea. I'm like, I did that without even realizing it. I swear to God, I did not do that on purpose, because that is not a movie I would ever want to watch on its anniversary, because fucking Tales from Earthsea.
I think
shockingly not the worst Ghibli movie.
Oh, please, we're not going to talk about that. No.
No, we don't have to.
Good. I don't think I've done that like accidentally. Actually, I think I might have done that with Muppet Christmas Carol, not last year, but the year before. And then I know Carson Runquist watched Before Sunrise, not on its anniversary, but it's like the day Jesse and Celine meet. He did that completely accidentally, which I think is funny.
That's funny, yeah. In terms of like purposeful watching on the anniversary, I have done that with The Dark Crystal several times. December 17th is the days I usually try to watch it. I don't think I watched it that way last year, actually, but that's because I premiered the episode of it on the 17th. Yeah, so changing it up a bit. Actually, the other time I accidentally did something on a film's anniversary was when I premiered my Shazam episode accidentally on the anniversary of Shazam premiering, which was like what, April 5th? And I think I premiered my episode. I premiered my episode on like the 4-year anniversary. I was like, I swear I didn't do that on purpose. I just wanted to put it on a Wednesday because it was a couple days after the Morbius episode. I swear it was on accident. But yeah. Is there anything else you have to say about Kaguya before we get into this Blu-ray? Do you have any other notes?
Did you watch the sub or dub?
So now we're gonna have this conversation.
Well, I mean,
no, I'm glad. No, this is absolutely something I wanted to bring up myself, actually. So I watched the sub. Yeah, I watched it subbed. You watched it dubbed, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. So this is where I kick you out of the podcast. Disgusting. I'm kidding.
Well, when I saw it in theaters, it was the sub. Does that make it any better?
Okay. No, that's interesting, actually, that they would have showed it in theaters as a sub. Yeah, so this actually ties into the Blu-ray that I have it on. It has the English voice cast plastered at the front. You know, you got Chloe Grace Moretz, James Caan, Mary Steenburgen, Darren Criss, and Lucy Liu. I feel like I can imagine which characters they play.
Yeah.
Chloe Grace Moretz obviously plays Kaguya. James Caan, I'm assuming, plays the dad. Mary Steenburgen, the mom.
And that's actually not the first time those two have been husband and wife, mom and dad. They were both
oh my god.
They were both an elf as well.
They were both an elf as the parents. Oh my god. That I did not. Oh my god. I just got that. Oh, I didn't make that connection. Look, every time I hear Mary Steenburgen, I think of her being in Back to the Future Part 3. Yeah, cuz that was like my introduction to her. I'm like, who's Mary Steenburgen? Oh, she's Clara Clayton in Back to the Future Part 3. I love Back to the Future Part 3. Anyway, oh my god, I didn't even make that connection. Wow, that's true. And yeah, Darren Criss, I'm assuming that's what's it, Saitama? No,
Seimaru.
Seimaru.
Yeah, and he was that was like his he was, I mean, I'm assuming you haven't watched Glee, but I have. He was Blaine.
Okay.
So that was like his peak popularity in Glee, because I know that that was when Glee was still really popular.
Okay, I've never watched Glee. I don't care.
I prefer the music over the show.
Yeah, I can get that. That seems to be people's modern interpretation of that show, is liking the music over the actual show. But
yeah.
Whatever. And Lucy Liu. I am familiar with Lucy Liu. She was in Kill Bill, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and that one episode of Futurama where Fry dates her.
And then also Viper in Kung Fu Panda movies, and Chicago for like 2 minutes.
She was in Chicago? I haven't seen Chicago. What's that movie we watched relatively recently that we were comparing to Chicago?
Wasn't
there a movie we were relatively comparing to Chicago? Like William was just like, hey, it's just like Chicago, oLIVia, and you were just like, no, it's not.
I can't remember, but I know a couple months ago you guys said, hey, we're gonna watch Chicago in the voice call, and I joined in, and it was the 1920s silent movie.
Yeah, we did do that.
I'm like, guys, I've already seen this.
Oh, you have? Well, I haven't actually, because William stopped playing it after 30 seconds. He's just like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah, it was kind of boring, and I was at a family party anyway, so.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I made this up. Maybe we didn't watch something that we related to Chicago. I don't know. I feel like William just says a lot of things.
But there are a couple other notable people in the voice cast. Like, I don't know the other two, but 3 of the suitors are voiced by James Marsden, John Cho, and Daniel Day Kim.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. James Marsden. Donut Lord himself.
And the thing about Daniel Day Kim is I know him from Lost, but he was also in Spider-Man 2 for like 2 seconds. He was like one of the background scientists. And that was like the same year Lost came out, so like that was before he made it big. And then he's he's Dr. Han in that I Am a Surgeon meme.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. That's the other thing he's like most famous for recently.
And then he's also gonna be Ozai in the Avatar remake.
Yeah, that too.
I'll be
honest,
I heard about that's good
that.
casting, but
yeah,
we'll just have to see how it goes.
It's just a shame that it's another live action Last Airbender. It's like, did you learn nothing from Spider-Man 3? No, that's a quote from my server. They just love saying that. But no, did you learn nothing from Shyamalan? Like, come on.
Shyamalama Ding Dong.
Shyamalama Ding Dong. Anyway, yeah. No, that's interesting that like they have other voice actors. I don't know. I didn't watch the English version, so I am very much a sub kind of person. I prefer watching a movie in its original language, like because I like watching something for its intended purpose. I get the dub arguments, and I am not one of those like hardcore sub people that like shames people for watching dubs. Like, by all means, like watch whatever version you want. I personally just can't get into dubs. Like, I've seen plenty of movies that were dubbed. It's funny. I watched Spirited Away dubbed, and I did not vibe with it at all. Whereas like then really? I saw it a second time subbed, and I loved it a lot more. I don't know, just something about Japanese dialogue being translated to English doesn't work for me. And I think I figured out maybe why this time around. I realized, and this is something I've realized before, I just applied it this time to this movie. There's something vastly different about reading something written and then hearing something written. You know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
So did you ever watch Zack Snyder's Watchmen?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so have you ever read Watchmen, the comic?
No.
Okay, well, it still applies. So, like, Watchmen, the comic, was obviously very influential and is seen as, like, one of the greatest, like, comics/graphic novels ever written.
Yeah, I do know that much.
Yeah, no, it's a very good book. Like, I've read it. It's very, very good.
I did actually recently add the MIDI series to my watch list.
Yeah, so Zack Snyder made the movie adaptation, and he really wanted it to like kind of capture the magic of the book, so much so that like the movie's pretty much just the book but in live action, like give or take a few things he changed. And that's all well and good, as like an experiment to be like, oh, isn't that cool? I see Rorschach in live action. Or I see Dr. Manhattan in live action. Oh, look, you can actually see his blue penis in 3D. Isn't that fun? Like, oh, that's an actual thing. Yeah, Dr. Manhattan's completely naked in the book and in the movie. Yeah. I'm really selling you on this movie. Oh, but no, anyway, my point is, Watchmen, the book, because it's written, you have characters go on like long-winded speeches a lot more often. And that's all well and good when you're reading it, but when you're listening to it, it really starts to feel like boring. And also the other thing too is like, if you don't have a good director who knows how to direct actors properly, actors delivering these lines can just sound so forced and so unnatural. Like there's so many scenes I remember in Zack Snyder's Watchmen being delivered by actors who I know are good actors on their own, but my God, them delivering like this Watchmen dialogue, it feels so forced and so unnatural that you're just like, this sucks. Like it's just the worst of the worst. So my point is, I feel like when I'm like reading the Japanese dialogue in English, I feel like I could take it a lot more seriously because just the way it's written, I feel like I take a lot more seriously reading it than if I were to like listen to it being delivered by an English voice actor. Now, that's just a personal thing. I realized with me personally, I am not going to like, force that upon anybody else. Like if you watched it in English and you got exactly what you wanted out of that, that's totally fine. Like I completely understand that.
I do agree with you with the sub thing. Like for me, sub and dub will depend on my mood. Like there are some movies where I prefer dub. Like I guess Kaguya I prefer dub, even though I do really like the sub. And then for other movies like Perfect Blue, like yeah, I prefer the sub. But if I'm watching a new movie, if I want to watch the sub or the dub, it just depends on my mood.
Sure, I get that. Yeah. I have watched dubs before. I'm more I do like the dub of Death Note because that was like not only was that my first dub, that was like my first anime regardless. I was very nervous about watching it in Japanese, so I just watched it in English and I loved it. But then I fully transitioned to sub only when I watched my second anime, One Punch Man, cuz like I wanted to watch One Punch Man, and I watched it in its original Japanese, and I loved it. And then I remember seeing a clip of it in English, and I watched it, and I was like, "Oh, this sucks!" Like it just wasn't the same. And especially like JoJo, I've seen a couple of clips of JoJo in English, and it's like part of the reason why I love JoJo is like hearing Japanese people like say these American and Western bands like in like broken Japanese English. Like it just adds a bit of magic to it. Whereas like when you try to hear it in English, it's just not the same like it at all. So again, different strokes for different folks. I get the differences. But yeah, I think personally, I am more of a fan of the Japanese version, so I don't mind doing a little reading. That's basically my point. But at least this movie gives me the option. Again, much like the Iron Giant, giving me different versions. Like I can just go into the language settings and be like, "Oh, audio Japanese, subtitles English," and I'm good. Like it works out. So I am a little annoyed that like the English voice cast gets top billing on this Blu-ray rather than the Japanese voice cast, but I mean you go to Letterboxd and the cast list is the Japanese version, so it's like
because it's the original language.
Yeah, exactly. So like I'm fine with that then. If I have to look at this Blu-ray and it says James Caan and Mary Steenburgen and Chloe Grace Moretz, so be it. Like and also maybe that gives me the opportunity at some point to check out the English dub at some point. Maybe I'll get something out of it, but I do prefer the sub version myself. Is there any other notes you had before we really dive into this Blu-ray?
Yeah, I do have a couple. I guess going back to just going back to Daniel Day Kim real quick because I do love him. He was I forgot his title, but he was I think he was Middle Counselor Ultimo, so he was the one who went out to the ocean to get the jewel from the dragon's neck.
Mm.
And what I think is really fascinating is that even though Daniel Day Kim is Korean, not Japanese, his character looks exactly like him. It's like they modeled him off him, even though like I highly doubt it, but I just think it's kind of funny.
No, I can imagine that. I can see that because like I do remember that character, and like yeah, he does bear a striking resemblance. Yeah, it's obviously coincidental, but I think that is fascinating nonetheless.
Yeah, like Daniel Day Kim's jawline is like literally at a 90-degree angle, just like Ultimo's.
The dude has quite the jawline, I must say.
Seriously.
That's why like when, the I am a surgeon meme was floating around, that's why that guy looked like a soy jack and he was like the Chad, because it just ended up working out that way.
And then I wrote a couple other notes, like I don't know where I read this, but Kaguya's eyes lose color as the movie progresses. So like early in the movie they're kind of bluish, and then like like near the end they turn gray.
That makes sense. I don't think I noticed that, but I feel like if I went back, I could see that. Yes, that definitely sounds like something that would be probable.
And then I've heard a couple complaints about how the whole moon aspect, about how Kaguya comes from the moon, that it comes out of nowhere, even though it's in the original tale. But I think the movie does a good job foreshadowing it.
Right.
Like there are just various shots of the moon, and then Kaguya passed out in the snow, and she says that she's seen it before as she gazes over the snowy landscape because it looks like the moon.
Yeah.
And then Daniel Day Kim once again says that her melody was out of this world when she was playing the koto.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like kind of referenced here and there. It's just not like greatly referenced. I do admit it does come out of nowhere, but again, I feel like that kind of reflects the fairy tale nature of the movie, so I'm fine with that.
Well, the movie is basically made for Japanese audiences. Like obviously everyone in Japan knows the ending, so they know what's coming. And then I think I heard Takahata say that he made the movie so that Japanese audiences could deeply resonate with Kaguya, because I guess they all saw Kaguya as not like a real human being, just I guess like the suitor is just a folktale legend. So I guess the movie's goal was to like make you deeply resonate with her, make her well-rounded.
Yeah, and I think it does a good job at that because, I mean, like we were saying, like, it definitely does show the pressures of having this, like, legendary title. So, yeah, no, I agree. I think this movie does that really well, actually. It succeeds. Good job, Takahata.
And then, this movie was cited to be inspirations for Wolfwalkers and the Mitchells vs. the Machines.
Interesting. So I get Wolfwalkers, Mitchells vs. the Machines.
Well, I mean, it's not like a direct
right
inspiration, but I think it was Mike Rianda. He had like a, I guess, movie Bible. He had like a Word document, and he had just a list of goals that he wanted to have for the Mitchells vs. the Machines, and he said he wanted an interesting art style, and he had a picture of Kaguya as one of the examples.
Okay. In that way, yes, I can see that.
Yeah.
Then, yes. Because Mitchells vs. the Machines, I mean...
It's way different.
Yeah, I have my issues with it, but I will not fault the movie. It does have an interesting art style, absolutely. So it does have that going for it, absolutely.
And then Wolfwalkers, I know Tom Moore, the director, like clearly stated... Yeah, I think it was him in an article who said that the scene of Kaguya running was the inspiration for the wolf vision. Where it was like the POV of like the different wolves and like what their vision looked like.
Yeah. It reminds me of the Morbius vision in Morbius.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Personally, I think Kaguya did it better, but only by a little bit.
And then I guess I have, aside from the dub versus sub question, I guess I need to ask, do you think this should have won Best Animated Feature?
This was the year it went up against Big Hero 6, correct?
Yes.
what the fuck was up with that year? The Lego Movie didn't even get nominated.
I know.
And Big Hero 6 won. Look. I admit I'm a bit biased because I don't like Big Hero 6 as much as I used to. I didn't hate it when I first watched it. I actually really liked it when I first watched it. I was like, wow, what a good movie. But man, the more times you watch it, you're just like, this sucks, kind of. That was my mistake, just like it's not a great movie. I feel bad that we kind of put it down, but at the same time, it won Best Picture over Kaguya and the Lego Movie. And what else was nominated that year?
Song of the Sea, How to Train Your Dragon 2, and The Box Trolls. Yeah.
Really? Big Hero 6? Like, I don't know. Out of all the Disney movies that deserve Best Animated Feature, it is not Big Hero 6. But, all right. Forget all of that. Forget that Big Hero 6 won. Comparing Kaguya to the rest of those, and I'll be fair, I have not seen Song of the Sea. I have not seen The Box Trolls. I have seen How to Train Your Dragon 2.
That's the only one I haven't seen.
Yeah, How to Train Your Dragon 2 is fine. I remember liking it. It was good. I compared to Kaguya, Kaguya definitely would have won. Now, look, I'm saying this as if I'm giving any shred of credit towards the Academy for knowing what movies are, when they clearly don't know what movies are. So, but I think objectively speaking, if we're going by Best Animated Feature of the year 2014, even though this came out in 2013, but it came out in 2014 in the States, Kaguya is the better choice. Like, it's... if we're going off of what should have won, Kaguya definitely, because it's literally the best animated feature of that year. Like, it's one of the best animated features of the 2010s even.
Honestly.
I mean, what else is there? I mean, I love Spider-Verse. I probably love Spider-Verse more than this, but that's just because I don't know, that's a fun movie. Like, I'm not like sad at the end of Spider-Verse. I'm actually very happy and chipper after I watch Spider-Verse.
Yeah, for me at the end of Kaguya, I'm just like an empty shell, but in the best way.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that Kaguya has like a very kind of bitter ending to it. I'd much prefer its bitter ending over like, a studio intervening, being like, no, it has to be happy. She doesn't go back to the moon people. She actually stays with her parents. I'm smart. I'm a smart executive. I know what movies are. Yeah, no, to answer your question, Kaguya should have won, but c'est la vie or whatever,
I think for me, I both adore Kaguya and Song of the Sea. So I mean, I guess Kaguya is objectively better, but that's also because I guess they're going for more complex themes. And
sure,
yeah, I will say like Song of the Sea is, I guess, a bit simpler with its themes, but I don't really consider that a knock against the movie. I adore both of them, so I would have been totally fine with both of them winning. And then the Lego Movie should have been nominated at least.
At least. I mean, that's a movie that, like, I remember when first watching the Lego Movie in theaters and being like, wow, this is something special. It's like, nope, not special enough for the award show where we're awarding the best of the best in terms of cinema. It's like, I hate the Academy for a number of reasons, but mostly that people take it seriously in some way, shape, or form. But anyway, yeah.
Do you want to hate him? Do you want to hate him a little bit more?
I hate him already, but please explain to me how I can hate him more.
Okay, so I think it was a Variety article, or it was like I think it was just an article back in 2015 when they were having the nominations out. And they interviewed a number of Academy voters. They were all anonymous. And then there was one who led their blurb by saying like, oh yeah, I think the Lego Movie should have been nominated. But then he goes off saying that Song of the Sea and Tale of the Princess Kaguya are like Chinese effing movies that like nobody cares about, even though they're Japanese and Irish.
And he said
And they said they voted for Big Hero 6 because that was the one their kid watched.
Oh my god. It's so easy to hate on that person. It's like, do they not how much lack of self-awareness do you have to not have to be like, yeah, I'll just say this and I'll look great in the interview. It's like I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine being an Academy voter and considering the fucking choices they make over the years, but like I can't imagine being that fucking brain dead. Actually saying that and thinking, yeah, this will make me look good. It's like, oh god, Academy, more like shit. I fucking hate the Academy. I hate the Oscars. I don't like them at all. Fuck. Anyway, unlike Kaguya, let's end this on a positive note.
Right.
Blu-ray. I have a Blu-ray plus DVD pack of Princess Kaguya, The Tale of Princess Kaguya. I could own it on one of those nice Ghibli steelbooks, but I think this is another one of those. This is just like the Iron Giant, where it's like, it's still a nice Blu-ray that I don't mind keeping it. So I am fine keeping this particular Blu-ray in my collection, whether or not I upgrade it eventually. It still has a place in the collection. Like, I love this movie. It's very, very good. It gets better, even though I like bumped my score of it down slightly, so it wasn't a 5 stars. It's now like a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I hated it absolutely. I was lying. Big Hero 6 did deserve to win. Yeah. Oh my god, I almost died admitting something that was not true. Anyway, no, I love this movie lots. I think it gets better with time, but like in a way that like I'm able to understand it better. And I think it's an important movie. I think many people should watch it and adore it. Except for William. I think William should never watch it just to spite you fuckers for not watching a movie from the 60s. There. But yeah, no. So do you own this in your limited physical media collection?
Mm-hmm. So
Ooh.
I do have I have a couple movies in a couple of movies in multiple formats, and Kaguya is one of them. So I have the 2-disc DVD one for Kaguya, and then I have the steelbook for it. And I got the DVD one off eBay, I think like a year or so before the steelbook came out, because I really wanted to watch the feature-length documentary that's attached to it, like the making of documentary. Okay. Is that on your Blu-ray?
Yeah. I think it should be. I got this Blu-ray because I don't think the steelbook for it existed. I got Kaguya and Only Yesterday on the standard Blu-rays because I don't think they had made the steelbooks yet, which I was like greatly offended by. I'm just like, you're gonna go for the Miyazaki Blu-rays first,
yeah,
but you're not gonna put the Takahata Blu-rays on steelbook right away. It's whatever.
Yeah, I do highly recommend the documentary. It's really good.
Yeah, I think announcement of the completion of the film, Japanese trailers too. Isao Takahata and his Tale of the Princess Kaguya, feature-length documentary on the making of this masterpiece. Yes. So I think I should check that out at some point, definitely. I need to watch more bonus features on Blu-rays that I own. I usually just get the Blu-rays and I versions of movies on these editions just because I want to see the movie. Like, I don't really care about bonus features. I mean, I'd like to know more about my favorite movies, but at the same time, it's not a necessity. But it's nice that I have the option. Again, harkening back to the Iron Giant Blu-ray. It's like, I want choices in what I watch. So
I have been wanting to watch more director's commentaries, but then
that too.
When it's been like a long enough gap of time that I want to watch the movie again, I just want to watch the movie and not the commentary.
You just want to watch exactly. That's the tough part of wanting to watch a commentary. It's just like, I want to watch it, but at the same time, it's been long enough. I want to watch the movie again.
Exactly.
So yeah, I totally get that. Yeah. Is there anything else we have to say about Tale of Princess Kaguya?
I feel like I could go on for another hour, but I just don't know where to begin.
I know. I've the exact same way. I mean, that's the thing that's the frustrating thing I realized when starting this podcast is like, I'll like finish talking about a movie and like as I'm editing it, I'm just like, fuck, I forgot to mention like everything. But I mean, that's the thing is like, I know I'm going to eventually return to this movie. So like, it's fine. Even if I forget to mention stuff, the important thing is I know now that I definitely want to own it. That's the important part.
Exactly.
So, yeah. All right. oLIVia, that's the time of the episode again. It's time for you to shout out your stuff. Where can people find you?
Okay, cool. You can find me on YouTube. It's going to be my full name, oLIVia Mendel, and then my Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd are going to be Liv Mendel, so it's going to be LIV, my nickname, and then my last name, MENDEL. But it's going to be in the links anyway, so.
It is going to be links in the description. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Positively. Oh, well, oLIVia, thank you so much for coming on the show today, talking about 2 movies that I own on Blu-ray and now forever own in the collection on Blu-ray.
Of course.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. And thank you, Esmeralda, for showing up too.
She's
Stupid
finally
cat.
shut up. She's back in the closet.
Oh, right when I shout her out, she has nothing to say. How usual.
She's quiet now.
Yeah, at least she is quiet. That is very true. Well, unless she has something to say, but I guess she has nothing to say about Iron Giant or Princess Kaguya.
I guess not.
She doesn't strike me as much of a cinephile, I guess.
No.
SMH. Anyway. But yeah, thanks again for coming on. And thank you, the listener, for listening to this podcast. If you want to support the show, give a like, give a comment, listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or on YouTube. That's fine too. Doesn't matter. Also, I've been making shorts of episodes, just so that I can advertise them somehow. Some of you fucking Zoomers watching YouTube shorts, that's all you watch on YouTube is the shorts. Well, watch the podcast too. That'd be cool. Also, sometimes I stream. I just did a birthday stream a couple weeks ago. It was very fun. oLIVia, you were there. We played Gartic Phone.
Indeed, I was.
Remember the time we did that? That was epic. Freaking sweet.
That was such a fun time.
Yeah, it was. I want to do that more often when I feel like it. I don't know when, but eventually it'll be nice. Yeah, thanks for watching, and always remember, you stay, I go, no following.
R.I.P. Kaguya. R.I.P. Kaguya. You would have loved Barbie.
She would have loved Barbie, exactly. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Just